All right, everybody. I think we are live here. Welcome back to the Lila Rose podcast. Hello, hello. This is another YouTube live here. We're doing these a lot now. I will be in the chat throughout the YouTube live, keeping an eye on it. Hello, John Henry. Thanks for joining. Hi, Chris. Thanks for joining. All right. Lots to talk about here. We're going to deep dive some recent statements yesterday coming from the Trump Vance ticket. We're also going to talk about some of the controversy happening over on X, formerly Twitter, some things that have been said, that I've said, and we're also going to talk about comments coming out from Andrew Tate this morning, pretty mindless take on abortion that I want to unpack. So lots to talk about this episode. Thanks so much for joining. Hi, Mary Bernadette. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining in. Hey, AV says, good afternoon. How's your day? The day's good. It's pretty busy over here. It's been pretty crazy, a crazy week, but everything's going great. And we have a lot to talk about today. So thanks everybody for joining on this special episode of the Lila Rose podcast, where we do YouTube lives to talk about news commentary, politics, culture. The Lila Rose podcast's focus is to help people live their full potential. So most of our episodes are focused on relationships and health and spirituality and faith. Today, we're talking politics and culture, though, because we do political commentary on these YouTube lives. So thank you, everybody, for joining. Hey, Christina, thanks for coming on. Great to see everybody. All right, so let's start with the breaking news. That's the top of mind here. Some comments coming out yesterday from the Trump campaign. Very important comments for us to look at. Context here, we did 2 lives last week about the Democratic National Convention, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, and how extraordinarily pro-abortion the whole convention was. Everybody who was watching the channel here was learning about what was being said at the convention, or if you were watching it yourself. So we know that the Kamala Harris, Tim Walz ticket is extraordinarily pro-abortion. Kamala Harris wants abortion up until birth, and she has been advocating for that, not just as vice president, but now running for the president of the United States. In response, last week, President Trump tweeted that he supports reproductive rights, which was kind of a letdown, as you might imagine, for the pro-life community when the DNC is spending the whole week celebrating abortion. Formerly, President Trump has run on a pro-life platform, and the Republican Party has had a pro-life platform. But particularly concerning were some comments and some statements made yesterday. Let's take a look. Let's start with this comment that was made in an interview by President Trump about a very important amendment that is up for a vote in the state of Florida. Quick background here. This is called Amendment 4. As we've talked about on the show before, there are ballot initiatives now that are being run, often by the pro-abortion side in different states, to try to legalize abortion on demand through all 9 months. In Florida, that's what the pro-abortion lobby is doing. They're trying to legalize abortion on demand for all 9 months of pregnancy. Florida has a heartbeat law put in place and signed into law by Governor DeSantis, which prohibits abortion after 6 or 7 weeks. This is a big step in the right direction because it saves thousands and thousands of lives. Of course, a baby who is younger than 6 or 7 weeks old is still just as much a baby, but this law is in place to save thousands of lives. These are some comments that President Trump made last night about Amendment 4 in Florida, as well as about the heartbeat law in the state of Florida. So let's watch this video next.
You overturned,
everyone does. I think everyone
Roe,
does, yeah.
And you want abortion to be a states' rights issue. In Florida, the state that you are a resident of, there's an abortion-related amendment on the ballot to overturn the 6-week ban in Florida. How are you going to vote on that?
Well, I think the 6-week is too short. It has to be more time, and so and I've told them that I want more weeks.
So you'll vote in favor of the amendment?
I am going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. Look, just so you understand, everybody wanted Roe v. Wade terminated for years, 52 years. I got it done. They wanted it to go back to the states. Exceptions are very important for me, for Ronald Reagan, for others that have navigated this very, very interesting and difficult path.
You overturned.
Well, everyone does.
Okay, so she's pressing him. The reporter here is pressing President Trump on his position on the Florida amendment. So Amendment 4, let's pull up the text of Amendment 4. Let me see if I can send that over to you, Harris, so people know what we're talking about. Amendment 4 is a ballot initiative in the state of Florida that would effectively codify abortion in the state. So we're going to actually read from the text here of the Amendment 4 so you guys know what is being talked about here. Let me send this over to our You've got it. Oh, you are fast. Thank you, Harris. Okay, so let's pull this up. It says, let me make sure we're reading from the same thing here. So Amendment 4, a yes on Amendment 4 would ensure that there is no law shall prohibit, penalize, delay, or restrict abortion before viability or when necessary to protect the patient's health, as determined by the patient's healthcare provider. Now, what this is saying is that any abortion is permitted until viability, which is around 21 weeks. So the baby can be killed for any reason before 21 weeks in Florida if this law goes into effect, if Amendment 4 wins. And then after viability, and this is called like a baby that's old enough to survive outside the womb, you can still kill the baby provided you get your healthcare provider to sign off on it. Do you know who the healthcare provider is in an abortion? It's an abortionist. That's your healthcare provider. Abortionists make thousands of dollars with every late-term abortion that they do. So what's going to happen in Florida if Amendment 4 passes is it's going to undo the heartbeat law that won in the state of Florida and enjoys support from many Floridians, including, I think one of the polls was over 70% of Hispanic Floridians. There was a strong support even among many Democrat Floridians for the heartbeat law. Again, the media doesn't report on that information, right? They don't want you to know that actually heartbeat laws and abortion restrictions are popular because the media is extremely pro-abortion and they don't care. They want people to think abortion's a great thing and that everybody wants abortion. That's a lie, by the way. But what this law would do is permit abortion up until birth, provided an abortionist wants to do business. That's what it is. This would make Florida an abortion destination for the South. And of course, pro-lifers and moderates are saying this is ridiculous when they learn about it. This is why it's so sad that President Trump has, up until this point, not said he would even vote no on it. He's a Florida resident. He should say, of course, I'm going to vote no. And in this media interview, he's saying, well, we're going to leave it up to the states. That's what I want to do, leave it up to the states. Well, it's in the states now, President Trump. It's in Florida. And the people of Florida and Governor DeSantis are working really hard to ensure that the abortion industry doesn't win and enshrine abortion up until birth in the great state of Florida. And President Trump, instead of supporting their efforts here, is criticizing what the state decided it wanted, which was a heartbeat law, and saying that it's not gone far enough, and indicating that he would actually vote yes on the amendment because he doesn't want to have the heartbeat law in place anymore. So this is incredibly concerning. There's been a lot of blowback from many people who formerly wanted to vote for President Trump, who are saying, what is this? How can you be doing this? If you are all for states' rights, why are you criticizing the states that are trying to protect human lives? That's what's happening here. So a lot of blowback online. There's a lot of people, I'm hearing my phone's blowing up from people who say that they were wanting to vote for Trump in this election, but this is yet another example of Trump choosing to throw the pro-life movement under the bus and even go back on his former statements expressing support for states that are banning abortion or the right of states to be able to do that. I want to also address this idea that states like California or New York have the right to permit abortion up until birth. No state has the right to permit abortion until birth. In fact, states have an obligation and a duty to protect human lives in their state. We have a constitutional right to life. I have a right to life. You have a right to life. A child in the womb has a right to life. And no state has the right to deprive anyone of that right to life. That is what our 14th Amendment to our Constitution says, that we have equal protection under the law, and that no state, I'm quoting directly here, has any right to deprive a person of life without ultimately due process. There's no due process for the baby. So even if you reject the state rights proposition and you say, yes, there's no state's rights to an abortion, of course not, Trump here is saying, well, I don't even want the state to be able to save lives in this case, in his own state of Florida. So a huge disappointment. A lot of people are upset, and rightfully so. All right, let's listen to the other statement before we talk about some of the blowback against pro-lifers making their voice heard right now. So this next statement is from also the Trump campaign. This is President Trump last night making a special announcement about IVF. So we'll pull this up next.
Fertilization treatments, and here's what he had to say.
As part of our efforts to help working families, I'm announcing today in a major statement that under the Trump administration, your government will pay for, or your insurance company will be mandated to pay for, all costs associated with IVF treatment, fertilization for women, IVF treatment. Because we want more babies, to put it very nicely. And for this same reason, we will also allow new parents to deduct major newborn expenses from their taxes.
Okay, we can.
So joining me now with the latest is CBS News campaign reporter
So here's he's starting by saying we're going to cover and force insurance companies to cover all IVF treatments. Now, keep in mind, typically I think the right or conservatives, they don't want taxpayer funding. They don't, there was a huge push by many conservatives against, universalized healthcare, things like this. So he's clearly just completely not in that vein anymore, right? Trump at this point is just saying, I'm going to give away free IVF. These are tens of thousands of dollars, these different procedures, right? But what's most concerning here is not that, because you can have a debate about whether the government should pay for something versus not, and there's lots of opinions on both sides. Separate from that debate, what is IVF? And this is a reality that many people don't realize. But here's what the research bears out. 7% of embryos that are created via IVF will result in a live birth. Only 7%. That means that there's a full 93% of babies that are created via IVF that are either indefinitely frozen, are miscarried, or are aborted. Currently in the United States, there's an estimated over 1 million babies who are being indefinitely frozen via IVF. The IVF industry in the United States has less regulations than most of Europe. And in the United States, many people, if they pursue IVF, they have the money to do it, they can create maybe 12 embryos, maybe 20 embryos. These are human lives. And then they can select which ones they want based on genetics, based on the sex of the baby perhaps, and how healthy they seem. And then they put the baby through a process of hopefully seeking the baby to implant so that the baby can grow. But that process is very risky, the transfer process of embryos created via IVF. And then there's something called selective reduction, which we've reported on the podcast before, and we report on it extensively at Live Action News, which is when sometimes multiple babies are implanted to see which ones might catch, implant and start growing. And if too many babies start growing, or the baby starts to grow and then there's some sort of a health problem the baby has, or maybe the couple who purchased the IVF treatment changes their mind for whatever reason, you can do an abortion. And so IVF babies are especially at risk for abortion because they're seen as commodities that are created and destroyed at the will of their parents or at the will of their donors, and the parents purchasing the egg and the sperm, whatever it might be, of the donors who then have signed off their rights to the purchasing parents. This is America's IVF industry, and it's heartbreaking. Now, of course, we celebrate any life created via IVF because they're a life. It doesn't matter how you were conceived. This is the pro-life principle, right? It doesn't matter how you were conceived. Your life is precious. You have equal value. You should have equal value under the law. And this is why we care so much about IVF, because these children are being brought into the world and then treated like commodities and indefinitely frozen, over 1 million of them in America's IVF industry. So the fact that IVF is highly unethical, it has led to so many abortions, it's so dangerous for these children. And again, we've interviewed former IVF doctors on the show, different experts about IVF on the show. So I might try to link those in the bio after this or in the description so you can see what these conversations are. But it's incredible here that President Trump, on the hand, former President Trump is saying, I oppose the heartbeat law, indicating that he's going to vote yes on Amendment 4, and then he goes out and he says he's going to pay for all IVF and mandate your insurance company to provide it, a treatment that is highly dangerous for children and unethical. So on multiple levels here, it appears that the Trump campaign is making this decision this week to double down on their ultimately pro-abortion position. And I think that's devastating. I think that's the wrong move. I've been trying to raise the alarm and say, President Trump, reverse course here. Because there was a President Trump in the 2020 election and even in the 2016 election that seemed to be a fighter for life and indicated that he wanted the pro-life vote and indicated that he would fight for life and he would fight against the extremism of the Democrats. But instead, we're seeing the opposite here. I want to respond to some of the critics because there's a lot of people, particularly on X right now, where I've been making comments and other folks in media who are saying, shut up. Now's not the time to talk about anything that Trump's doing that you disagree with. Now's the time to get in line and to get people to vote for him. That's your job. That's what you should do. And I have a few responses to that response that I'm getting, that feedback that I'm getting. It is my job as a pro-life activist to advocate for a group of people who have no voice, who have no vote, who have no way to speak for themselves. And that group of people are preborn human beings, brothers and sisters, little girls and boys in the womb. And it's my job to speak for them because they can't speak. And so when President Trump or J.D. Vance say that they support abortion pills, which are 60% of all abortions in this country, which is a position that President Trump was not campaigning on 4 years ago. It's a new position that he's taking, right? What do you think activists should say? What do you think we should say? We should say, stop doing that. What are you doing? Stop supporting abortion pills. There are 2 months out before this election. This is an opportunity that we have to make our voices heard as voters because our job is to urge our candidates to do the right thing to earn our vote. That's the job of voters. It's not just to go out there like sheep and say, well, what's done is done. There's no change is possible. So I'm just going to vote for what I see as the lesser of two evils right now. No, this is an active thing. And Trump is clearly on the campaign trail changing his position as we speak on abortion. So he needs to hear from you. He needs to hear from me to raise the alarm and say, this is not right. Stop doing this. We don't want Kamala Harris to win. We don't want Tim Walz to be the vice president of the United States. We don't want this ticket. And we don't want you to change your position and become a pro-abortion candidate as well. So now is the time for us to raise our voices. Some critics have been saying, well, you're suppressing the vote. You're suppressing the vote. No, I'm encouraging the vote. I'm saying, and I'm encouraging President Trump. I'm saying now is your time to do the right thing and to stand up for life. And we hope that we can vote for you. I would like to be able to vote for you. There's a tweet that I posted. Let's pull this up next here, Harris on X, which I think is really important to put this all into perspective. So I did a bit of a thought experiment. This was earlier today. And let's see if it's pulled up here on gun control. So gun control, is obviously a very, very controversial issue for a lot of people. Or, the First Amendment, Second Amendment rights. And you can see what I'm asking here. I'm saying, do you think that, let's pull up the poll. If President Trump came out with a ban on assault weapons, would you still support him? We've got 15,000 votes so far. And only 22% of people are saying yes. 65% of people are saying no, I would not support him. 12% of people say I'm unsure. So if this was the litmus test, if the litmus test for President Trump is, are you going to betray your Second Amendment voters or are you going to stand with them? If President Trump threw that constituency under the bus, then it looks like a lot of them would just not vote for him anymore. What lesson should we learn from this as pro-lifers? What lesson should we learn from the NRA as pro-lifers? What lesson should we learn from other political movements that are successful and have been successful in this country? The lesson is to demand more from your candidates and then work to build a movement that is politically strong and robust. There is a comment on this tweet that said, ban on assault, let me see if we can pull this up. There's a commenter who says, ban on assault weapons is a constitutional issue. Abortion isn't, but nice try here. This is clearly a MAGA supporter. I mean, right there just shows we have a lot of educational work to do because abortion is a constitutional issue. Even more so, I would argue, than guns, because if you don't have a right to life, then you have no other way to enjoy any other rights. Your right to life has to come first. And the Constitution promises equal protection under the law for all persons and says that no state under the 14th Amendment can deprive anyone of life without due process. But that's what abortion is. It's depriving human beings of life without due process. Abortion is unconstitutional. This is the greatest human rights issue of our day. There's over 1 million abortions a year. This deserves us to raise our voices. If people are willing to raise their voice over guns, over the border, over war, over immigration, all the so much more we should raise our voices over the killing of unborn lives. There's one more concept I want to talk about before I move on to Andrew Tate. So, and some of the comments he made recently. So there's a concept in politics called the Overton Window. And I'm going to ask Harris if you can pull up this graph for me, this little diagram. Okay, awesome. So let me just explain what the Overton window is. There's different theories about how to just ways to describe this theory, but let me just explain it here. Overton window is a model for understanding how ideas in society change over time and influence politics. The core concept is that politicians are limited in what policy ideas they can support. They generally only pursue policies that are widely accepted throughout society as legitimate policy options. So it's basically, what is the realm of political possibility and acceptability for certain ideas or policies, right? And before this era now of the Trump campaign, in the Republican Party, we had a platform that named the 14th Amendment and talked specifically about the value of human life. It talked specifically about how there's a right to life and that all people should enjoy that right, and that this is a constitutional right that we all share. Well, unfortunately, the RNC platform was recently weakened to specifically talk about late-term abortion only and then say abortion was up to the states. So it's moving the Overton window away from this idea that, yes, you have a constitutional right to life, and over to this idea that actually if your state wants to kill babies, then they vote on that, then that's okay. And that right there is an example of backwards, of our movement going backwards on life. Because what we need to be doing as a movement is saying, no, you have a constitutional right to life. No state has a right to kill anybody. And we're going to fight for the rights of all children, born and unborn. That is the position of the movement. So our job as activists, if you look at the graphic here, our job as activists is to take things that might seem unpopular at a time or certain people consider, oh, that's impossible, and to make it possible. I want you to think about with me for a moment 15 years ago. 15 years ago, the transgender rage that's happening right now, craze that's happening right now, would have probably been seen as almost unthinkable for most people. This idea that children could be transed, that you could do mutilations and mastectomies of children's body parts that are minors. 15 years ago, I think people would have been shocked to consider where we are today if they knew where we were today. Of course, there were some lone prophetic voices sounding the alarm, but I think most people would have been shocked. And 20 years ago, I think especially people would have been shocked to consider that the LGBTQ plus IA whatever lobby is as powerful as it is, that gay marriage is everywhere, and that this idea of marriage between a man and a woman is obsolete for a lot of people. I think people would have been really surprised at how much progress that movement has made. And they've made that progress not by just picking and going out and turning out the vote for the politician that was the least bad on whatever gay rights were, but by demanding the best and then fighting like hell for it politically and culturally. And so the cultural side of the pro-life movement is where Live Action invests most of our time. We actually are C3. We don't invest our time in winning political battles or in going to the ballot box. In the future, we will be doing that. We've been actually working on a launch of a program to do that because I think that part of our movement, I love the people working in those spaces, but I think there's a lot of help that they need. There's a lot more that needs to be done. But the principle is this. The principle is this. It is the job of the pro-life movement to advocate for the people group that we serve and to fight for them and to demand more for them. That is our job. And it's the job of politicians, if they want our vote, to win our vote, to lobby for our vote, right? And so that's what we are going to continue to do. That's what I will do in my personal capacity. And that's what Live Action will do in terms of education, that these are a people group that deserve protection and support, and we need to go rally for them because, again, they cannot speak for themselves. And we will work on moving the Overton window so that it is seen as politically impossible in the future to support killing babies. That's where we need to go here, to make it politically impossible. But the only way to get there is if pro-lifers, including us as voters, demand more. That is the only way to get there. All right, I'm going to move next to some of Andrew Tate's recent statements. This popped up on my Twitter feed this morning. I'm also going to take a quick look at the chat. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in here. Savannah says, thank you so much for speaking clearly on this. Of course, thank you, Savannah. Thanks for being here. Deanne says, I think we all agree the issue is the fact that one is so much, much worse than the other. I totally hear you, Diane. Hang in there. We've got 2 months out before the election. Trump has flip-flopped on this before, and he's actively flip-flopping on it now. Now is the time. We're not voting tomorrow. Now is the time to make your voice heard and say, Trump, you have to change on this. He needs to hear from all of us. If we all say, fine, it's fine, Trump, we're going to vote for you no matter what you do over the next 2 months, because Kamala's always going to be worse to us, then we're never going to get anything better out of President Trump. And he can continue to flip-flop all the way to whatever new pro-abortion law he's going to go. Our job right now is to raise our voice. That is the job of the pro-life movement. All right, let's go to this. Before we go to this statement from Andrew Tate, I want to thank a couple of our sponsors really quick. So we've got some amazing businesses that sponsor the show. One of them is Good Ranchers. Good Ranchers is America's meat delivered. Their chicken is amazing. They've got beef, poultry, pork, fish. All of their products are delicious. And they have this amazing system where they get all of those products. They get them from American ranchers. That's why it's called Good Ranchers. It's helping support your local ranchers. I love Good Ranchers because they're also a pro-life, pro-family company that is passionate about your values. And so they're delivering these best-in-class meat products to your door coming from American ranchers. You can go to goodranchers.com today and you can use the code Lila at checkout. You get free priority shipping and they have amazing specials going on every month. So go to goodranchers.com. Our other sponsor for this show is We Heart Nutrition. WeHeartNutrition.com is an amazing supplement company that provides supplements in their most bioavailable form so that your body can best absorb these nutrients. Their packages are designed particularly for women in all different stages and phases of life. So if you are wanting to get pregnant and you're wanting a great vitamin that helps with your fertility, they have a great package for that at WeHeartNutrition.com. If you are pregnant, they've got a great prenatal. If you have just had a baby, they've got a great postnatal vitamin to rebuild up your body, all of the vitamins and the nutrients and the what your body needs to be strong to then help your developing baby and nurse them if that's what you're doing. If you are premenopausal or postmenopausal, they have all of those supplements at WeHeartNutrition.com. So go today, go check them out. They're also a pro-life, pro-family company, and they're donating 10% of every order back to pregnancy resource centers. I love this. I love the company. I love their mission. And they're an American-made product with a small American family business. So WeHeartNutrition.com, use the code Lila at checkout to get 20% off your first order, a full 20% off, and get some amazing supplements to be the healthiest you. All right, let's go to these comments coming from Andrew Tate. So I don't usually comment on all of the nonsense that I see in the red pill world, the manosphere, whatever you want to call it. I don't usually honestly pay that much attention. I notice what's happening if it comes through my feed. This caught my eye because it was a particularly mindless comment from Andrew Tate about abortion. And, it's very sad that he's talking about abortion to his millions of followers. I don't know how many of them are still listening to him, but there's definitely thousands of men that listen to Andrew Tate. And he's talking about how we shouldn't be making such a big deal out of abortion. I want to just make a comment here. As you guys may know who Andrew Tate is, he was a very, I think, successful in many ways pornographer for many years, and he built a whole system of recruiting young women to be OnlyFans models so he could get a cut from the money that they were making. Apparently, he stopped this business over just the last couple years since the pandemic, but this was a business he had for a very long time. And the business was very, obviously very unethical, but the business was also apparently potentially illegal because he's been under huge heat from the Romanian authorities, where I think he currently is living, and they are going after him for alleging sex trafficking charges against him. So this is something that, for people to say, well, Andrew Tate's not that bad, this is all the Matrix coming after him. If you look at Andrew Tate's own words, he brags about, as recently as the pandemic, he brags about how he's using pornography and manipulating girls to be OnlyFans actors or personalities so that he can make money off of them. I mean, it's kind of the lowest of the low. It is the lowest of the low. And listen, people that objectify girls and women, men that objectify girls and women, they love abortion. They love abortion. I spent a decade reporting on this. Reporting on the sexual abuse cover-up in the abortion industry, how sexual abusers love to take their victims to abortion clinics, because they can cover up the crime that they committed against that victim by getting them a secret abortion. Like if you get a little girl pregnant and you're an abuser, and this little girl, this 13-year-old girl is pregnant, or you're a sex trafficker, you're a pimp, and your 21-year-old victim is pregnant, you don't want them to stay pregnant. You want them to work for you, or you want to be able to sexually abuse them. So you're going to get them a secret abortion. So there's a big correlation here between sex traffickers and abortion lovers. They go hand in hand. So I wasn't very surprised when I see Andrew Tate come through in my feed making light of abortion and joking about abortion. And yes, even expressing support for abortion. Surprise, surprise. Sex trafficker likes abortion. It's not a surprise. So let's listen to these comments from Andrew Tate.
Conservatives are losers. We all knew this, which is why they perpetually lose to the biggest losers in the world, which are liberals. But I've logged onto Twitter this morning, and all the conservatives are crying their eyes out because Trump is passing some bill that allowed the states to decide abortion as opposed to it being nationally decided. And all the conservatives
All right, you can
are
pause
having
it.
a break.
Okay, so already, he doesn't know what he's talking about. So again, the ignorance here is strong. But he's saying the conservatives are crying their eyes out because, Trump passed a bill so that the states could decide abortion. Okay, that's definitely not what happened. Roe v. Wade was overturned, allowing pro-life states to pass pro-life laws. And Trump is saying he wants abortion to be in the states. But what he really said last night was he doesn't like the fact that Florida is using their supposed states' rights to ban abortion, and he doesn't like the fact that Florida's banning abortion. He's mad at Florida for doing that, which is ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. So anyways, Andrew Tate is misrepresenting what's happening, but let's keep listening.
Down. Oh my God, we can't vote for Trump because of the abortion. You're not going to vote for Trump over abortion. Don't you think we need a border? Don't you think the economy needs fixing before China perpetually buries us?
Okay, can you pause it here? Can you pause it? Imagine if he said, you're not going to vote for Trump over guns. It's fine. Give up your guns. It's fine. Give up your guns because we need to protect the border. We need to protect the economy. I don't think he'd do that. Because the reality is there's a bunch of people who care more about things like guns than babies. And, again, they say we're not going to give up our issues, but you have to give up yours, right? That's the message from sex trafficker Andrew Tate here. You better give up your issue. It's just the babies. Who cares? Babies. I don't care. It's abortion. Ha ha. So funny, Andrew Tate. But what about my issues? My issues matter more than yours. But if it was your guns, what would you say? If it was your money, what would you say? Would you care then? What is it going to take to get you to care? I'm not counting on Andrew Tate to care here. I didn't expect him to care in the first place because of the way that he's living his life. It doesn't seem to be congruous to care about unborn life with the way he's living his life. But I would hope that he doesn't persuade other people not to care. So let's keep listening. Is there more? There's just F words. Varys is saying, well, let's do a little bit more. Apologize in advance for the F words. Let's see. Okay.
The conservatives crying about abortion are as stupid as the liberals crying about it. If some woman wants to kill her own offspring, then she's a dumbass. Let her do it. She's a fucking idiot. Who gives a shit?
Okay, you can pause it here. Okay. He's saying, who gives a crap if abortion is legal because these women will kill their offspring? It's not a big deal. And, that's, then he says, abortion, it's fine. Let it be legal, basically. That's the whole pro-life movement, right? We care. He says, who gives, we care. We're the ones who care, Andrew Tate, and I'm proud to care. And I encourage everyone to care because a baby, even if they're conceived by a single mother, if they're conceived by a sexually trafficked victim that may be a victim of Andrew Tate, I don't know, or someone like Andrew Tate, that baby deserves advocacy. That baby deserves life. Every life is worth fighting for. That's the message of the pro-life movement. So it's a very dark worldview that Andrew Tate has here, and it's very broken to say that life is not precious if the mother is not a good person or if the mother, in his view is not whatever, she is a liberal. I mean, he hates liberals apparently, but these are human beings, and we advocate for the dignity of every single human being. All right, we're going to go and close out here in a moment. What's that? Yeah. Oh, okay, we're going to play it again. Sorry. It looks like it didn't play. Let's give it one more try.
No, they'll have the big stack and we'll get wrecked. Who gives a fuck? Who gives? Conservatives crying about abortion are as stupid as the liberals crying about it. If some woman wants to kill her own offspring, then she's a dumbass. Let her do it. She's a fucking idiot. Who gives a shit? Why would you even outlaw this?
Okay, you can pause it now. I already kind of responded to that. I'm sorry you didn't hear it yet, but yes, that is the argument, of course, and it's a very broken view of what it means to be human. What it means to be human is that we have the ability to love, and we have the ability to love other people, and it's not just about me and my interests. That is the power of the gift of freedom that we've been given, and free will is that we can choose to love. And choosing to hate instead, to say it's that baby might as well die because their mother's a liberal, is what he's saying here. I mean, it's obviously heartbreaking, and that's one of the many reasons why I think this mindless, the mindless platform of Tate is one that's really damaging to a lot of people. And so anyways, there's some people I see defending Andrew Tate, even in conservative circles, and I think that's really sad. I think sometimes it's connected to wanting to get his platform, get his followers, get more attention, and I just would say in response to all of that, stand for what's true, stand for what's good, stand for what's beautiful, and stand for human beings and their value, because every life has value, including a baby who may be conceived by their mother that you don't agree with their political opinions. That baby's life matters too. All right, we're going to wrap here with the Chaplet of Divine Mercy. We've done this over the last few lives. Thank you all again for tuning in here. Michelle is saying Tate's absolutely disgusting. Yes, I know these comments are very disgusting. Unfortunately, he's so angry and bitter. All of this, I agree, is it's very sad. What is our solution? What's our response? Speak the truth, even when it's unpopular. The truth sets people free, and then let's pray together. I think prayer is so powerful and such a gift. So we've been praying a chaplet from the Chaplet of Divine Mercy. Harris, if you can pull this up for us. And we've been just praying 1 decade of it. And we've done this every show now for the last couple of weeks. So I hope you can join me. The Chaplet of Divine Mercy is a special prayer that has a beautiful history. Maybe we'll do an episode actually on the Chaplet of Divine Mercy and its origin, or where it originated. But we're going to start by just praying, or we're going to end, I should say, by just praying 1 decade of the chaplet. So we start with a prayer called the Eternal Father, and then we do 10 shorter prayers to close us out. So is that up on the screen here? Perfect. All right. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Eternal Father, I offer you the body and blood, soul, and divinity of your dearly beloved Son, our Lord Jesus Christ, in atonement for our sins and those of the whole world. For the sake of his sorrowful passion, have mercy on us and on the whole world. For the sake of his sorrowful passion, have mercy on us and on the whole world. For the sake of his sorrowful passion, have mercy on us and on the whole world. For the sake of his sorrowful passion, have mercy on us and on the whole world. For the sake of his sorrowful passion, have mercy on us and on the whole world. For the sake of his sorrowful passion, have mercy on us and on the whole world. For the sake of his sorrowful passion, have mercy on us and on the whole world. For the sake of his sorrowful passion, have mercy on us and on the whole world. For the sake of his sorrowful passion, have mercy on us and on the whole world. For the sake of his sorrowful passion, have mercy on us and on the whole world. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. All right, guys, thanks for praying with me. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being here. We will see you next time. We will be out with another podcast episode this coming Tuesday, and we might do a live that day too, so stay tuned. If you're listening on YouTube right now, make sure you guys are subscribed, everyone who's watching right now. Sometimes we look at our analytics, and there's a lot of people who watch the content but aren't subscribed. They might not even know they're subscribed. Make sure you're subscribed. And then also, if you're listening on podcast app later, make sure you're subscribed there on Spotify or Apple Podcast, however you get your shows. Make sure you get them there. One last thing is we have a locals community, and we're starting to put special behind-the-wall access content that you're going to love. I just put out an exclusive interview that I did with Jonathan Rumi. It's not on my main channel. It's only on locals. We had a longer conversation at a local high school here where we talked about more in depth his personal story, his life, what was most difficult for him, being in the Chosen, things like that. So you can go check that out. And that link is in the description. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you next time.